Right now, without realizing it, you are performing a gesture you have repeated thousands of times today. Your thumb moves downward through your phone screen. You pause. New content loads, and you do it again. You think you're in control, but you're actually caught in what is known as the 80-20 rule, a hidden algorithmic formula that social media platforms use to keep you scrolling long after you meant to stop. It is an engineered ratio designed to quietly strip away your free will, turning what should be a 2-minute check into a 2-hour blur. Every time you feel that subtle, unresolved urge to scroll just one more page, you are feeling the precise mathematical pressure of this code at work. We will get to how that 80-20 formula works and how it's being used against your brain in just a moment. But to understand how you got trapped in it, we first have to go back to about 2 decades ago. Before 2006, the internet had natural boundaries. Every web page had an edge, a literal bottom line where the information ended. Reaching that boundary forced a natural pause. For a brief second, your brain snapped back into reality, giving you a quick window to check the clock, gauge your original intention, and decide if you actually wanted to keep reading. That tiny delay served as a crucial exit ramp. A UI designer named Asa Raskin eliminated that ramp entirely. Raskin engineered what we now know as the Infinite Scroll, a continuous feed mechanism that fetches new posts automatically the moment your viewport hits the page bottom. From a pure software perspective, he was simply solving a user experience problem. He wanted to strip away the friction of clicking Page 2 and make navigating the web feel as seamless as flowing water. What seemed like a minor design tweak triggered a massive psychological shift. By erasing that simple click, Raskin effectively wiped out what cognitive psychologists call a decision point. These micropauses act as biological circuit breakers, pulling the human mind out of absolute absorption long enough to evaluate time and purpose. Without those mental breaks, your brain drifts into a hypnotic state known as a flow trap. In this passive trance, your awareness of time completely dissolves. Studies tracking user behavior inside infinite feeds revealed that over half of participants lost all sense of how long they had been online, with the majority unable to recall a single piece of content they had consumed just minutes prior. Raskin later calculated that his single design innovation consumes roughly 200,000 additional hours of collective human attention every single day. The weight of that reality eventually led him to testify against Meta in court, and he now leads an initiative dedicated to dismantling the very software patterns his generation created. The digital hallway was stripped of its doors, leaving users trapped in an endless corridor. By the time you even realize you're looking for an exit, an hour of your life has already quietly vanished. By removing decision points, designers built a digital hallway with no doors. But an endless corridor is useless if people don't feel compelled to keep walking down it. The platform needed an active, physical trigger, a tiny ritual to keep your attention moving forward, giving you the sensation of almost finding what you came for, without ever fully satisfying you enough to leave. To solve this, software engineers introduced a motion you now perform dozens of times a day without a second thought. Pull to refresh. You drag your finger down, a small wheel spins, and a wave of new content appears. Today, this gesture is so embedded in daily life that it feels natural, almost instinctual. But it didn't evolve organically. It was engineered by Twitter developer Lauren Brichter. Brichter later looked back on his creation with deep regret, admitting that the mechanism was inherently addictive and comparing the visual drag and release action to the physical arm of a casino lever. Think about what happens in your brain during that half-second delay when the loading wheel turns. You aren't just waiting for pictures to load. Your nervous system is waiting for a hit. Here is what makes this design so sinister. Pull to refresh isn't just like a slot machine. Operationally, it is identical to one. In the 1950s, behavioral psychologist B.F. Skinner discovered the primary rule of psychological conditioning through experiments with animals. Skinner found that if you reward a behavior every single time, the subject eventually loses interest once they're full. But if you reward the behavior unpredictably, sometimes delivering a massive reward, sometimes a small one, and sometimes nothing at all, the subject enters a state of compulsive obsession. Psychologists call this a variable ratio reinforcement schedule. The uncertainty isn't a glitch in the experience. It is the exact engine that makes the habit permanent. Every time you pull down on your screen, your brain executes a micro-gamble. Will it be an exciting message, a viral video, or useless junk? You can't know until the wheel stops spinning. That brief window of anticipation releases a spike of dopamine, driving you to drag your finger down again and again and again. Through the combination of an endless hallway and a slot machine lever, tech companies successfully transformed 2 hours of scrolling into what feels like 20 minutes, leaving you hooked on an unpredictable loop you never consciously agreed to join. At this point, you might assume the content on your screen appears by chance, or simply reflects what your friends are posting. But this is precisely where the 80-20 rule takes over. The endless hallway now had a lever, and tech giants needed a mathematical strategy to dictate what came out when you pulled it. While users consistently fill out surveys claiming they want uplifting stories, educational content, and wholesome updates, the underlying tracking code revealed a far darker truth about human psychology. The software didn't care about what people said they wanted. It monitored what actually commanded their screen time, learning through billions of behavioral data points that negative emotions hold attention far more effectively than positive ones. The evidence for this shift didn't leak from external critics or academic researchers. It came directly from inside big tech's own walls. In 2017, Facebook executed a crucial overhaul of its ranking system. Software engineers updated the algorithm to weigh emoji reactions, love, wow, sad, and particularly the angry emoji, at 5 times the value of a standard passive like. The core logic seemed innocent on the surface. Taking the extra effort to click an emoji signaled deeper emotional engagement, meaning the post deserved wider distribution. An internal staffer immediately flagged the danger in a memo that was later exposed in congressional leaks. The warning stated that giving extra weight to intense emotional reactions would naturally flood user feeds with outrageous clickbait, hostility, and manipulative outrage. Management acknowledged the warning, weighed the financial upside, and pushed the update live anyway. By 2019, Facebook's internal data science team confirmed those exact fears. Their own audits showed that posts triggering the highest volume of angry reactions were disproportionately packed with misinformation, toxic arguments, and low-quality rage bait. For 3 straight years, the platform's core recommendation code actively elevated the most hostile material on the internet. It wasn't operating out of pure malice. It was following a simple, terrifying instruction: maximize user retention at all costs. The system quickly calculated that low-grade, constant agitation was the single most reliable fuel to keep humanity scrolling. To make this slot machine trick work even better, social media apps use a simple trick called the 80-20 rule. You might have heard of the 80-20 rule before. It usually means that 80% of results come from 20% of effort. But app creators use it in a much darker way. Their data showed that 80% of the time you spend scrolling isn't because of normal posts or pictures from your friends. It's driven by just 20% of specific posts, the ones that make you angry, jealous, shocked, or excited. The algorithm doesn't care about showing you things that actually make you happy. Its main goal is to space out that powerful 20% throughout your feed. By hiding those big emotional posts inside an 80% pile of boring, everyday stuff, the app keeps your brain constantly guessing. You keep dragging your thumb down through the boring posts just to find the next exciting one. It leaves you feeling slightly unsatisfied, which keeps you hooked and scrolling for hours. If you've ever wondered why opening social media almost instantly makes you feel restless or tense, what came out of congressional hearings explains everything. Frances Haugen, the former Facebook product manager who leaked tens of thousands of internal documents to the Wall Street Journal in 2021, exposed this exact mechanism when testifying before Congress. She stated plainly that Facebook consistently chose user engagement over safety, revealing their internal findings in a single sentence. Anger and hate is the easiest way to grow on Facebook. Your feed doesn't reflect reality. It operates as a finely tuned system powered by unprecedented amounts of user data, designed to keep you in a state of low-grade, constant agitation. It thrives on that quiet feeling that something is slightly wrong or unresolved, just enough to make you check the screen one last time before putting it away. Algorithms don't select content based on truth or personal benefit. Content appears because it triggers the specific emotional reaction required to keep your thumb moving. And keeping you scrolling is the singular goal the software was built to achieve. This raises an obvious question. If the platform traps your attention, fuels your agitation, and monetizes your time, what is actually being sold and who is buying it? Harvard professor Shoshana Zuboff answered this in her 2019 book, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. While many people know the phrase, "If you aren't paying for the product, you are the product," Zuboff uncovered the precise mechanics behind how that business model operates. Zuboff argued that you aren't actually the product. You are the raw material. The actual product being created is a prediction, a refined, continuously updated digital model forecasting your exact future behavior. It calculates what you will buy, what you will click, and what specific content will keep you trapped on the platform for another 4 minutes. It determines which advertisement, delivered in what context, during which exact emotional state, is most likely to trigger a spending decision. Every scroll, every 3-second pause on a video, and every reaction you give or intentionally withhold is systematically harvested, computed, and converted into that behavioral model. The platform's focus on your emotional state isn't a side effect of the design. It's the core engine driving it. A user trapped in a loop of mild, continuous agitation, slightly unsatisfied, and reflexively reaching for the next post, generates the most valuable commercial data on Earth. Engagement and data extraction aren't separate events. They are the exact same process. Zuboff termed this behavioral surplus. The massive excess data harvested from your online activity far beyond what's required to run the app. Platforms claim this surplus, process it into hyper-accurate behavioral predictions, and sell those models to advertisers looking to influence your decisions in the real world. The feed never truly ends because the data collection never stops. The mechanics of the scroll and the mechanics of the business model are identical, operating as two sides of the exact same coin. You aren't simply using social media. Social media is using you. The system transforms your digital activity into a data-driven model of your behavior, packaged, refined, and sold to the highest bidder. The engineers who constructed this architecture understood exactly what they were creating. Several of them have admitted as much in remarkably direct terms. Chamath Palihapitiya, Facebook's former vice president of user growth, stated publicly in 2017, "The short-term, dopamine-driven feedback loops that we have created are destroying how society works." He expressed deep guilt over his role in developing those features, noting that he refused to allow his own children to use the products he helped build. The very teams tasked with driving daily active user metrics knew that maximum growth required breaking down natural psychological boundaries. Furthermore, whistleblower Frances Haugen uncovered internal research commissioned by Facebook regarding Instagram's impact on younger users, findings that were reviewed internally and quietly shelved. The company's own data revealed that nearly a third of teenage girls who felt insecure about their body image reported that Instagram actively made those feelings worse. The research identified social comparison as the primary driver of this distress. The algorithm constantly pushed users toward hyper-curated, unrealistically perfect depictions of life, creating a continuous mental feedback loop. Internal documents recorded that teenagers across multiple demographics unprompted and consistently linked the platform to rising levels of anxiety, low self-esteem, and mood distress. Facebook was fully aware of these outcomes. The findings were not speculation from outside critics, they were generated by the company's own data scientists. Yet the findings were kept from the public, and the core product continued operating without modification, prioritizing engagement metrics over user well-being. Asa Raskin removed the door. Lauren Brichter built the lever. The algorithm learned that anger was the most efficient fuel. The business model was built on the extraction of whatever the scroll produced, and the internal research confirmed, years before anyone outside the company could see it, what the system was doing to the people inside it. The average person now spends over 2 hours a day inside this architecture. That is more than 30 full days every year spent inside a space that was designed not to serve them, but to hold them, to keep the scroll moving, the data flowing, and the predictions refining. Social media taught you to need it. Every notification, endless refresh, and digital phantom itch built a habit that made opening the app feel like a reflex rather than a choice. What you were stepping into was simple: a hallway with no exit, and a lever with no predictable payoff. It's an engineered system that keeps you just agitated enough to stay, measuring your behavior and selling your attention to the highest bidder. You will scroll again after this. The platform will be waiting, and it knows exactly what to show you next. The difference now is that you know how the trap works. And knowing, it turns out, is the one thing it was never designed to help you with.